it's just kind of a small industry at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. It's surprisingly small, I feel like sometimes. And I would like to think that I've built a way that is, I really try not to burn bridges or those kinds of things as well too, so that there's like a lot of relationships and support and people who like come back, or you can kind of like collaborate with people or call on people and they know it's going to be a good experience, or those kinds of things too. Because sometimes I think people can get a little short-sighted about like, I can make this one project great, but it's more of this marathon versus a sprint type of thing, that it's sometimes it's more important to maintain the relationship than it is to sort of win the specific battle. And even with something like record labels or whatever as well too, like people be like really fighting for the whatever it is, some creative thing, because they're stuck on it for a single video project. But in doing that, they sort of make themselves like, the record label will never get them on another artist's video because they were so difficult or something like that too. So I always thought of really long-term and relationship based.
Welcome to the Vocal Lab. I'm Sarah Ramsey, and this show aims to pull back the curtain on the entertainment industry, where veterans give up-and-coming artists some of the information they wish they'd had when they were just starting out. Sort of a music industry primer, if you will. We are here today with writer and director Emma Higgins, and Emma hails from the province of British Columbia, close to home. Emma is a born storyteller. Drawing from her upbringing and the world around her, her unique Canadian perspective was forged by the gloom of the Pacific Northwest. As a writer, her work focuses on bringing the stories of underrepresented characters, women, and unlikely heroes to a wider audience through genre lensing. Her years of experience as a director have made her a trusted leader in the industry and a trendsetter in pop culture. Working with some of the world's top celebrity talent, her videos and commercials have garnered hundreds of millions of views. Her obsession with color, wardrobe, art direction, hair, and makeup give her work a distinct visual language. Above all else, she's dedicated to the humanity in every story she approaches. With a particular love of the misfit or outcast, she has a punk rock heart. After being nominated in 2018 for her video for Mother Mother's The Drugs, in 2021, she was recognized with a Juno Award for Video of the Year with Jessie Reyez's No One's in the Room. Her short films have screened at Toronto After Dark, Holly Shorts, Atlanta Film Festival, and CFC Short Film Festival. Outside of directing, she enjoys all things Halloween. I can attest to that. Middle Eastern food, cats, hiking, running fast, and the 1982 masterpiece Poltergeist. She currently splits her time between Los Angeles, Toronto, and Vancouver. Thanks for joining us today, Emma.
Wow, thank you so much for having me and that lovely, thorough intro.
Is it weird hearing, everybody says it's so weird hearing your bio read to you.
It's never actually happened to me before, so it's very weird.
Well, is there anything there you'd like to flesh out? You want to tell us your story briefly for listeners who might not know who you are? A little about your journey and how you got where you are today?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I do now. I work full-time as a director, and I've been doing that full-time as a director of, different short-form content, short films, commercials, music videos, hopefully a feature soon as well. And I've been doing all sorts of directing now, really pretty much full-time. It's been the last 9 years, 8 or 9 years that I've been doing that. And then before that, I was working as a number of different roles in the film industry as well, doing videography, doing editing. I worked in locations department and art department, and even a little in front of the camera stuff when I was very first starting out. So it's just been sort of a long journey of the film industry. It's really led me to this place where I'm extremely grateful to be in, where I get to create, content of all sorts, for different brands and bands, and it's kind of a dream job.
Yeah. It's a very cool job. I have to say it's one that I think most people don't have a lot of context for. It's not like everybody knows a director, you know.
Yeah, it's not an easy job to get into as well. It's like it's a complicated way, and there's no you could talk to 30 different people on your podcast about how they got to be a director, and everyone will probably tell you a very different story because it's not as clear cut of a road to get to this job. There's not like an application that you fill out or something like that. So, I really came to it just through, I think, practice of different roles on set as well too, and kind of finding out where I wanted to land. Like I really thought I was going to be an actor when I was very young, and then I thought that was not for me. And I certainly like other elements of the filmmaking process as well too, but there's something I like about directing. I think there's both on a practical and a creative level that feel really satisfying and honest to my myself, I guess.
Yeah. So here on the Vocal Lab, we are interested in having a real variety of folks on the show. Everyone an artist might need to know how to interact with or intersect with in the course of their musical career. And we aim to shine a light into the industry through the lens of what I know now that I wish I'd known then. So with that in mind, if you were starting your career over again, what would you do differently?
Yeah, there's a few things that I think I would do differently, or I think that I could have just saved myself some trouble early on, especially because all of the first projects I did really as a director were music videos. And I think that there is, there's a couple of things too. I think I used to, you get so wound up in certain aspects of things that a tip I would also give people is to sort of really look at things holistically as well too, because I think you're hustling through these like quick, these scrappy little shoots when you're starting out. And so there's just a lot on your plate, and you sort of wind up looking at things like, I'd wind up looking at things like lighting or stuff that would be like technical or whatever to me too. And then you wind up neglecting other things like hair and makeup and wardrobe and stuff like that too, which is like incredibly important, especially to an artist as well. That's like, it doesn't matter how pretty the lens is if they feel like they have some like, hair or an outfit on that they like hate or whatever because you did that. So I think it was just, that could have saved me some trouble early on as well too. It's just sort of really remembering not only like, just remember like the whole thing and sort of the importance of all these things in balance, I think is what makes a really good product as well. And to remember that balance. I also think it's such a collaborative process, and it has to be a bit of a check and ego, I think, sometimes when working with artists at the end of the day, because yes, I put a ton of work into every video I do, and it's something that I care about. And I do hope that my creative input is respected, but at the same time, it is not my name on that video, like as publicly as an artist is. So you have to remember too that an artist is that's their name or brand that is going to be on the internet forever. So people rarely know who directs the video. So if it's something that's, that I can just, if I put something out or whatever that didn't go the way I wanted it to go, I can kind of like, not advertise it, and it's not like there forever. It won't follow me through time the same way it will follow an artist through time. So just respecting that collaborative process so that you really are hearing their brand and trying to understand it as best you can. And then hopefully find that crossover of the Venn diagram where like I can bring what I think I do well to your brand. We can find that little zone in the middle where we can overlap them. And then that's like the great zone to stay in, but also just to remember that, it must be collaborative.
Yeah.
I think it's important.
I love that. And it's actually what you're saying is quite similar to when I've had producers or engineers on the show, and the way they talk about working with an artist, and it's sort of the same thing. Like, they're bringing their expertise, but their expertise is present in order to bring the artist's vision to life.
Mm-hmm.
And so that real collaboration of intersection of skills is, I think, a really important piece of it.
Yeah, I think it's also too, you have to, artists need to remember as well, it should probably be a give and take with the director for stuff too, because often you are working for free or next to free. And there's sort of this like thing too, where it's like, yeah, directors are looking to, if they're not getting paid financially to do your video, what they're hoping to do, and what I was hoping to do, was, build my skill set and build a reel that I could go out and turn into bigger projects and a career. So if, you're sort of pushing a will or something on a director, and sometimes it might be okay to just say, okay, well, as long as I have these things, I can sort of come and let the director do a few things that they're excited about too, to sort of make sure that they remain excited about the project, so that, because frankly, if you're not paying them in money, which you're often not, maybe it's nice to keep an open mind on your end as well, that it's like, okay, I can, and maybe it's part of your job on both ends, is to like hopefully inspire each other with good ideas and things like that too.
Well, and I mean, that really is the true nature of collaboration, right? Everybody's bringing their stuff to the table and figuring out the best way forward with all of that information, not just weighted to one side or the other.
Yeah. And it's different too in commercials when I do those and stuff now too, because like if a brand is coming, they are paying, and they are paying full rates to everyone. So you can, when they say they want this thing, it's like, okay, well, that's sure.
That's what you're paying for.
Absolutely. It's not exactly, it's not what I would do, but okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's look at the flip side of that. We talked a little bit about what you would do differently. And what are the things that you've done right in your career? What would you do the same all over again?
I think that the things that were really helpful to me were this idea of this DIY attitude. And I think I would do that the same. I felt like, you really kind of have to self-start on a lot of that stuff. And someone had given me the advice very early on that was like, if you want to be a director, just go direct. Don't wait for someone to go give you permission to go do it. And I really took that to heart. And I think that helped me a lot, because you can find ways to create stuff. Yeah. And that was just really good. I think that applies to music video directors and probably all artists too. If you wait for permission for someone to give you it, you're going to wait forever maybe. So that was something that was really helpful to me too. Other things I think were just building really strong relationships with artists and other creators. So like teammates, crew people, even just production, the vendors, things like that too, that were strong, because it helps as well too. And then, artists as well. And hopefully, it's just kind of a small industry at the end of the day. It's surprisingly small, I feel like sometimes. And I would like to think that I've built a way that is, I really try not to burn bridges or those kinds of things as well too, so that there's like a lot of relationships and support and people who like come back, or you can kind of like collaborate with people or call on people and they know it's going to be a good experience, or those kinds of things too. Because sometimes I think people can get a little short-sighted about like, I can make this one project great, but it's more of this marathon versus a sprint type of thing, that it's sometimes it's more important to maintain the relationship than it is to sort of win the specific battle. And even with something like record labels or whatever as well too, like people will be like, really fighting for whatever it is, some creative thing, because they're stuck on it for a single video project. But in doing that, they sort of make themselves like the record label will never get them on another artist's video because they were so difficult or something like that too. So I always thought of really long-term and relationship-based goals.
You are segueing so perfectly into my next question, Emma, which is, what have been the most important relationships in your career? And you can answer this with names or without, but I'm actually asking sort of less about specific names and more about the roles of what are the different relationships that have really helped you get where you are.
Yeah, well, certainly I will say, I mean, like 604 Records in Vancouver did help me out quite a lot too, because they were, when I was coming up, one of the as a smaller director in Vancouver, it was one of the record labels, but there were a lot of different, and a couple different labels and stuff too, that helped me out a lot. Really eventually all of Canadian labels too. And then, so those relationships early on, but also just with artists specifically, labels can be helpful. I know that, the industry seems like it's changing quite quickly in how it does video content. And often artists are left to just sort of do that on their own rather than necessarily have things be commissioned through a record label like they used to be. But having those labels too, to just sort of connect you, and managers as well, were helpful because they can have a couple artists. And if you kind of get in with someone and you're doing a really great job, they're going to try and get you just to do a bunch of them so that you're, whereas like an artist might need a music video or something like maybe 2 a year kind of thing. Like it's not really sustainable, but like a record label can need two a month if they have enough on their roster. So those relationships were good to just meet artists. I think also having a couple producers as well too, who finding collaborators on my end who are crew people who would want to do supporting roles to me, so we can kind of like laterally grow. That was always another piece of advice that was given to me early, which was to network laterally rather than try and network up. So rather than trying to get like, big people to help me out with my little videos or whatever, just find someone who's like, same place as me. Like we both want to grow. We both want to get in this position. And same thing with like cinematographers, the camera people, right? You'd get them. They might have been doing like an assistant job before, but they really want to be the main cinematographer. So you're going to say like, great, like let's give you the opportunity to work with me. And then you grow together and you see people kind of come up together, which is very, very helpful. But, and then, finally as well too, like, reps eventually became a very, very big relationship for me, who would make introductions to managers, to labels, to artists and stuff like that for me. And they'll do that and they'll commission on a portion of your work eventually. But that's definitely a little bit further down the road stuff. Yeah.
So is that, like, I'm not familiar with that role. Is a rep in that industry, does that function almost like a manager would for an artist, kind of? Is it that in between person?
It's sort of an interesting one because for music, it's different in Canada and in the US. For music videos, like in Canada, they don't really have reps separate from the production company. So a production company would have a roster of directors that they hire and they try and sort of like get working, right? And then if they get their directors working, they get to produce the job. They get to take their 13% off the top of the budget. And then the rest goes to the job. So they're earning money if their directors are working. So they want to have a roster of working directors, just in the same way a record label would have a roster of artists. You have directors that you think you can get working. So they would, try and go get you working. They wouldn't have a separate rep. In the States, we actually have different separate reps. So I'm still on a roster at a production company, but there's actually a separate rep. For me, his name's Tommy Labuda. He reps music video directors. So he knows all the record labels. And so when any of the record labels or artists or whatever need something, they'll come to him. They'll say, Tommy, we got Cardi B needs a video or whatever, and we have this much budget, and we want to shoot in Madrid on June 25th or whatever. And he'll go through all the ones that, so he's got directors who are on his roster, but are a bunch of different production companies, and he'll kind of send it out to a handful of directors and see who's available and interested. And then he'll get back a few pitches, and then he'll take those to the artist, and then the artist will hopefully select someone, and then he'll take a commission for finding it. But
yeah. Okay. Well, that helps clarify that process really nicely. Thank you. You want to talk a bit about how you learned your craft? I mean, I know you touched on it briefly right at the beginning, but in a creative industry, in any creative industry, honestly, you have such a mix of like formal education, self-taught people who come up through mentorship. How did that look for you?
Yeah, well, my learning was very informal. I had started working on sets when I was about 15 years old. And so I had been working on sets, and then found my way kind of into PAing, which is the lowest job on the music, on the sets. And it can be a really boring job. I'd worked on some like bigger movies and some TV shows and stuff, and you stand in a parking lot. And I found my way onto some music video sets, which are always underfunded, kind of, and scrappier and stuff too. But I found that really exciting because I got to be actually doing jobs, because like people were shorthanded. So they'd be like, you're a PA, you got free hands. Okay. You're now in the art department. You're going to help decorate this room or whatever too. So I was like, this is cool. Like you really got to like feel like you kind of get thrown into the function of it really quickly. And through that too, I was able to see, because you get on set and you start getting experience. And it started for me even just sort of understanding the roles in this organism, which is a film set, which is really a lot of different pieces. And like, there's kind of this hierarchy, but it's like a sort of beautiful thing when it works well, because everyone has their job, and it all sort of like works together in order to work towards this like end product and this goal. And I thought that was so cool as well. Because there's all these different great creative people, and also very technical people too. So, I just started asking people. I was like, okay, like, what do you do? What is this job? What is a grip? What is that? And people would tell me what they did and teach me a little bit about their job and things like that. So that experience on set was kind of like my film school, because I was able to just be there and learn how things worked. Well, getting paid for it actually, which was kind of nice. Like, not that I was living large on a PA salary, but I wasn't paying.
But you weren't paying for it.
I wasn't paying for it. So I was able to be there and really just like, and learn. And there was a few very helpful people who would be willing to, just share a little bit too about, and I think that's the thing. If you're sort of excited about something, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing with the dolly? Like, what's a dolly grip do? And they'd be like, oh, someone really cares about my job. I'll tell them. So that was really how I got, what I think of as my film school were those years and those experiences. And then from there, it was really about finding how to do more of my own stuff. And that was a lot of making bad shit. It was like, it's true. Getting a camera and like getting some friends, and then going and shooting something, and then getting, rudimentary editing it together, and then being like, just seeing how it could, being like, how does that process work of stuff? Like, because it's different when you can watch everyone else doing it, but then it's sort of different when you get all this footage back and then you're cutting it together and you're like, oh, like I can see how I should have gotten this different, or I missed this piece. I should have gotten, because like suddenly this guy just disappears halfway through the scene. I should have shown him exit, like little things. You're just like
missing connection pieces.
Yeah. And so you learn how to do like coverage, and you, through doing my own little music videos and stuff too, you also learn more, delegation and things like that too, because that's also thing. But yeah, anyhow, for me, it was a lot of learning on the job, and then, just making bad short films, a bunch of bad short, things, whatever. I'd shoot things on my own. I'd just go and just stuff that no one will ever see, but it taught me the lessons I needed to make. And then, then you can get like a little budget. I remember my first music video was like $300 budget, which covered like lunch and like some props and something. And then it was like a $700 budget. And then it was like, maybe 1,200 and then back to a 700, you just sort of like I try and get like enough money to just cover. So I at least didn't have to pay for it. Yeah. If a band could come up with some money just to basically buy people lunch and get some stuff that would be like, maybe it's renting a location or maybe it's renting, something like that. And then, you go make, I made probably like, I've made well over 100 music videos now. I do not know how many it is. And I probably made 20 short things before I ever got a budget, like of any sort. And then that budget was like nothing massive. It was probably like a $10,000 music video, but it was like at the time I was like, this is insane. I have made it. And I think at that time it felt like really a lot, but I think that's the other thing to remember. I think for artists as well is sometimes filmmaking is a stupidly expensive endeavor. Yeah. It's so pricey, and it's just so $10,000 seems like a lot of money, but it's like this. That is like, it's insurance, it's rates, it's a makeup artist, alone can be on the low end. You can get $500 a day or something too. So you can imagine it's like you can get, it just goes really, really quick. And it's not a lot of money ultimately. And even just little stuff that doesn't seem like it's super important, but you have to get like a first AC and that guy's going to charge something and then you got to rent the thing. And you're like, well, we don't have to do it, but then nothing's going to be in focus. So we kind of have to, and it's just expensive. It's hard. And I totally get it's a lot for artists as well, but, cause you can make a whole album for a heck of a lot less than one music video. Yeah. So it's, I understand it's tough, but it is getting cheaper and easier, and you can actually make things look really good with a lot less than when I started out.
Yeah. Well, like music production, it used to be that you had to rent a studio and you had to do all the things. And now more and more of it is becoming accessible. Just there's more accessible software. So, I mean, with music, it's more like people can do it themselves at home. With videos, I mean, maybe there are pieces of it that they can do for themselves as well. But I think all of those pieces of technology are becoming, over time, less expensive, more accessible. So what you end up mostly, I think, paying for as the technology gets less expensive, and it's not nothing, but it's improving. But what you end up paying for is people's expertise along the way. Yeah. That balance maybe is shifting.
Yeah, exactly. Because iPhones are better than the cameras I shot my first music video on. They're significantly better, and most people have one. And if you can, so you can kind of do a lot with that. But yeah, it's people's time as well too. Yep. And expertise in all those departments as well. If you do have a makeup artist, or you have someone who's making a cool set, or buying new clothes, or or just making things even go smoothly. It's like, it's stuff like, finding locations and just making sure too, there's kind of this like level where you can sort of do things scrappier, but there's a level sometimes when record labels get involved and stuff too, where you suddenly switch into an official capacity. And when you are starting to pay people, it also, like, if you're paying people, now you have to unlock some stuff, because now you do need insurance and workers' comp, and like and you need to that stuff too, because it can come back to bite you in the ass if you don't do it.
It really can. It really can. All right, let's switch directions here a little bit. Do you want to talk about how you approach the concept of storytelling in your writing and directing? Like, how do you connect to your audience?
Well, it's really different depending what it is, because I think I have my natural intuition of the stuff that attracts me, and it is the stuff you read in my bio and that as well too. And like when I sit down with a blank page, the type of stories that I'm, intuitively drawn to, that just come out, that, feel like this is interesting. It comes naturally to me and that kind of stuff. And as far as that goes, it's just been, trying to understand my intuition and also not judge it as well too, because I think that there's those things where, maybe you're like, I want to be this type of filmmaker, or I like these kinds of stories or this kind of thing. But like, there's a certain flow that I have just found. And like, I like this kind of stuff and it just feels to come the most natural. So I'm not questioning, I'm not judging it. And I'm just trying to be like, okay, this feels like exciting to me. And then, when working on stuff that's client-based, whether it is a commercial or with a musical artist as well, it's like looking at sort of what exists already with the brand. It can be tough if it's a brand new artist or something like that too, so you don't really have anything, but that might be a conversation with them and like getting a sense of what they are wanting to put into the world, and then how I can apply those things that in my intuitive stuff that I like, and I'd be like, will we cross over here? There will be times where sometimes I will get something from an artist or something as well, and just be like, I don't think we're actually going to have crossover here, and taste what you're coming at is like not what I like. And I think it would be a disservice, like not to give shade to it either too, because if that's their truth and their intuitive thing, that is like, that's their art and they want to whatever, then power to you. That is what you're supposed to do as an artist, but it might just not cross with mine. And then, so it's like, I think I'll have a hard time if I'm trying to like completely change, what the kind of thing I do is to like get there. So sometimes it might just be like, I just don't see this being a good fit. Like, I don't think I'll do service to what you're trying to put into the world, because I can't really find a connection between like what I usually like to do or what I think I'm good at and what you want to do. So
I think that's a really actually important piece of it is there are times where it can be a great fit, and there are times when it's not a great fit, and everybody is going to be better served to choose not to work together if it's not the right fit.
And those are the things as well too. I encourage artists to really look at stuff like as well and know what you want to say. First of all, like, I think if you are going to go talk to a director, it's important that you reflect on like, at least knowing too, you're like, well, I've done some of this kind of stuff. I think it's important, like even basic questions like, do I want to be in the video or not? Like, or do I want to have actors in the video or something like that? Do I want to perform? Do I want to do this? Like, what are the things that you're looking and that you want, so that you can have that conversation. And then I'd say too, just like look at a director's work and kind of see if you like it. Because I've been sort of like, sometimes I've seen people too, I'm like, and they'll come to me and then what they're asking for too, I'm like, have you ever watched what I do? Like, this is it's really weird that you came to me for this job, because it's like,
this is not my wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's really not my wheelhouse. And I just think it's like, maybe they just didn't look or something first too, but there are a lot of really great, filmmakers. Just take a look and see if there's anything you like. And then it's also helpful too, to hear, if you like something that I did or whatever, then you can say like, I was drawn to work with you because I liked your video for so-and-so or for this. And that kind of made me think of like, I thought that was cool. So I knew that we'd have something there. So I think artists should ask that as well too. Like, did they see a collaborative, do they think this person's going to get what they're going for?
That's a really important question to ask, I think. Thanks for joining us today. That was actually just part one of our interview. And I would love it if you come on back Thursday to catch part two. Can't wait to see you then.